Well, good day, folks, and thanks for joining me for this showcase. I'm really excited to show you this website today. As I said in the description, we are retiring the website, so it's an opportunity to review it, to talk about some of the work we've done, to show you what's possible for your website if you're building one of your own. And this is just a sort of inaugural video that should have happened at the beginning, but we didn't have a website back then, right? Or we had a blogger, I think, at the time. Anyway, this is our most recent official Maple Grove Productions website. I don't know that I've ever showcased it. A technical, tech demo, tech specialty, expertise type video was definitely in order. So I figured we would do that here today. You'll learn some things. If you have questions, please put those in the comments. I'm going to go over everything that I possibly can, so this may be a lengthier video, but stick with me because there's a lot of good stuff here, especially towards the middle and towards the end, where you're going to get the most value for your own business and to learn from a lot of the mistakes that I made. It happens, right? That's the process. Learning, making mistakes, and preferably in a safe space where those mistakes don't have detrimental impacts on your livelihood. So when you're starting a business like this, especially a bootstrap, you're generally safe unless you're really struggling and depending on it, which is kind of my situation now, to be honest. But if you're really depending on that, it's a different story. Otherwise, if it's just something you're doing on the side, a little side hustle, maybe something you're doing on evenings, weekends, you know how people typically start up a business, there's no risk here, really. There's a very small risk versus the typical business development backers, investors, putting in some of your own money, a higher risk to your livelihood versus starting a side business. I mean, what could go wrong? Anyway, here we are. Essentially, Maple Grove Productions has always been my video production business. And that's really, at the end of the day, that's what it is. Now, I've added to that over the years. You know, if we go quickly over, I'm going to go through the whole website here, but if we quickly pop over to services, here are some of the things that I've added. We started with mainly this, right? Audio and video editing, mostly just video editing. Making videos, mostly YouTube videos for myself. I remember very early on, before I even had kids, when my wife and I first got together, I had a gig doing video editing for an MMA fighter, which I won't mention his name. I don't even know if he's still fighting, but he had approached me when I was in town and needed a montage video, like a promo video. I had made him a really nice video. It's probably still on my old YouTube channel. But there was tons of learning lessons from this process, and that's what got me started back in 2007, maybe 2008. It's been a long time coming. Now, if we go back to the home page, look at all the other things we've added to our repertoire here. All the different service offerings. This section got combined recently, but that doesn't even speak to some of the other stuff that we do. And we'll get to that here at the end of the video. Here is the hero section. You know, the hero section should really grab you. For anybody that doesn't know, your hero section is the first thing that people see when they hit your website, the home page. Now, I'm on a 4K monitor here just so I have more real estate to show you and to display my screen for the demo. But imagine this smaller, shrunken down. If I zoom in, you'll get a better sense for what it might look like on like a 1080p monitor. It wouldn't even look like that because now everything's blown up, but you get the idea. Everything is on one page, and this is a little busy for my liking. I'll talk about why I'm moving away from website builders and what I've landed on. I'll have an example to show you towards the end of the video. The hero section should grab people. It should explain not necessarily what you do, or not just that, but how you solve problems for your clients. So right here, the first thing you see besides the menu is transform ideas into multimedia without the stress. So Maple Grove Productions, and then here's a little bit more about what I do. I help non-technical creators, businesses, individuals, bring their stories to life through engaging multimedia. And that's basically what it is. This engaging multimedia includes the new stuff that we're doing, but also the classic audio and video editing, because AV is our bread and butter. It still is. So that's the hero section. There was a theme for a long time with Maple Grove for the last 2 or 3 years that involved blending technology with nature. The core foundation of the company is we leverage 3 things: nature, as in our own human nature, our skills, our abilities, our gifts, and then actual nature, going outside and making content around permaculture homesteading. That was the first branch of the big tree of life. And then technology, which is a very important part of the business. We couldn't do what we do without the technology. And that's not just the software, that's not just the hardware, the skills, the skill set. It's what ties the gift to the execution. Thirdly is the balance. The balance is essentially the spirit in it all. It's the glue between the first two, nature and the technology, because there's a gap there. As we're seeing in our evolving world, technology is kind of going this way, and people who are more, let's call them organic or natural, going this way. And it's kind of hard to keep those things cohesive. So the balance encompassed, yes, the religious beliefs, the spirituality, not just that, but like the you at the center of all this, the observer, the experiencer, the not the doer, but the beer, if that makes any sense. So that's the balance, is what, brings these things together and ensures you're not spending too much time or energy on one side or the other. So that explains this motif you're seeing in the background, with the tree being nature, the scales being balance, and the technology, which is the light bulb. And that also speaks to the innovation, to the ideas behind what we're building here. And then the maple grove, obviously the maple leaves. So you get the kind of theme here. The execution part of it, for me, has not been properly done here. I've tried different models, approaches, and strategies, and I couldn't land on anything that effectively communicated. This is as close as I get, but I still feel like I'm maybe 70 to 80% of the way there. I've kind of just thrown my hands up at this point and called it good. Sometimes good is good enough. And that's kind of where we are. Here are some of the organizations that we've successfully served in the past. These are not just direct clients of Maple Grove Productions, but also clients of clients. For example, I worked with eSkills for many years. For 12 years, I worked with eSkills, and a lot of these are clients of eSkills, and eSkills being a client of mine. I just worded it as organizations that we've served, which is the truth. Some of them are companies under Camelot Ventures, is our working title right now for our holding company. So Camelot is involved with Rapid Course, Learn Regen, Maple Grove, and a new one that I'll keep under my hat for now. Let's just call them Replay Kit. So those four would be under the Camelot umbrella, let's say. But all these other ones were clients or clients of clients. And some pretty big names here, like Department of Commerce, United States Tennis Association. They were often involved with the International Tennis Association. We did a webinar series for them for many years. We were the voice of their training on Zoom. Wonderful client. All these people are just wonderful organizations, and I had nothing but joy for many years. NIST is one of my favorite clients, one of my favorite people to work with. The client lead also was fantastic. Great points of contact over there. Nothing but great results. We had 100% satisfaction rating on all of these projects. Not just one or two, like all of them. Not a single complaint. Nothing but rave reviews. Like, I'm not going to say that they were 10-star projects, each one of them. But even the 8s and the 9s, which to me, I'd want them to be higher, but that's just the perfectionist in me. But the point is that even the 8s and 9s received rave reviews and kudos, and made us feel pretty darn good about what we do. So anyway, moving away from the hero section, hopefully you understand what that's all about. We'll get to the menu here in a moment. Let me zoom back out so you get a better sense of what this looks like on 4K. And we'll talk about the menu and different things later. But I just want you to get a sense for why this is important here, why I took the chance of having these logos on here, even though this is intellectual property and I might get in trouble and have my hand slapped a little bit for having these. I figured in the end, worst case scenario, if by some small chance somebody from one of these organizations happens to see this and they have a problem with it for whatever reason, I don't know why they would. It's not like it's hurting anybody, it's benefiting all of us. But if that were to happen, I mean, it's as simple as just taking it down, right? So it's not like I've infringed upon anything or done anything wrong. This is just a telling of the truth. As I've worked with these companies, I've worked with these organizations, I've worked with these people, And I believe I'm within my rights and in my lane to post the logos here. Again, you'll notice simple things to stay on the right side of liability protection and honesty. I've got a star here, an asterisk, that if you go all the way down, we'll come back and look at all this again later. Down here, you'll see, I had nowhere else to put this little message, but the logos are shown for informational purposes only to indicate clients we have provided service to. No endorsement is applied. So I'm not saying these companies back me up and 100% support everything I'm doing. That would be a lie. What I am saying is that these logos are representing clients that I've served in the past, that we have served, not just myself, but some of these are my business partner as well. And the company. These companies have worked together. That's all it is. Now right below that, you'll see something else that I believe on 1080p. Let me check this real quick. I'll duplicate this and bring it down to my other screen. Yeah, so on my other screen, the bottom, whatever you want to call this here, this carousel scrolling message thing, marquee, it shows barely at the bottom. So that would be part of my hero section because that's the first screen that people see. Now, one annoying thing is on the 1080p, it's still defaulting to the hamburger menu. I'm not sure why. It's really annoying. I've tried to fix that a number of times, and that's one of the reasons I'm moving away from web builders. The one I'm using is web.com. It's just like Square or whatever these other ones, like all these web builders are basically the same. You build with sections and elements and you bring in stuff in parts. Basically, you're putting all the parts together instead of coding. It's very easy and user-friendly for the most part. There are some bugs, but for the most part, very user-friendly, but very limited also in what you can do if you want to do more advanced things or maybe even having too much stuff on the page. We won't go into detail about that because you'll hopefully by the end of this understand why maybe you shouldn't use a web builder and you should either learn coding yourself or use an AI tool. I don't think you need to hire a developer anymore nowadays, that you can do everything yourself, and I can even talk to you about that a little bit. Basically, other than that, look at this little marquee. These are just value statements, right? We bring your vision to life. I don't need to go over all of them, but powerful digital asset generator, way better results, shine your brightest. That was a tagline for a long time, is we help you shine your brightest, and I still believe that. We're just saying it differently now with other companies, projects, and ventures. It's the same message, just being said differently. Create solutions for life and business. Make a real impact. When we say real impact, we're talking like minimum 4 to 5. I need full screen for this. I kid you not. 4 to 5 times ROI minimum. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, of course, 10x is better than 5, but to start at the very beginning, you come to me with a project and have a budget that's X amount of dollars, and I can promise you 4 to 5 times return on investment. It's not bad, right? Considering that you also get the product and the service out of it, and you get returns. That's what I mean by real impact. Let's move on from this section. We've spent a lot of time on the top of the website. We'll cruise through the rest a little quicker here. So my thinking here is that I wanted to have a quick rundown of our services. People need to understand after the hero section, in my view anyway. I wanted them to just get a sense for what we do and the different categories of how that falls into, the type of work that we do. So the content development, how does that differ from multimedia productions? Sometimes even confusing for me. I'm like, well, what do I put this here? Do I put this there? In the end, it's all just me. It's all just me doing work. And this is all cohesive in my mind. That's really all that matters. But to try to explain it to other people, I need to visually accomplish that somehow. So I wanted to show here that content involves mostly the design part of things, right? So the instructional design, the graphic design, the storyboarding, the empowering ideas, which is, I guess that would be the storyboard and the plan behind it. That's the development part. The actual building happens in the multimedia production. And this could also, they're all tied together because this also has components of the next one, which is the online event management, the actual recording session or the actual event, online event or virtual event, this webinar, whatever it is that took place, that you're using that video to create then further content and then to diffuse that to the masses, however you plan to do that. A lot of that it happens in post-event services, which goes back to content, which then goes back to multimedia. So you could really put these all together into one, or maybe I think what I did on the other page is I combined these two together because they go hand in hand. But this one is such a close second or third. Without this, it's difficult to do content and multimedia. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully that makes sense. Now, if people did want to know more, they could click on this, and that takes us back to that services page that I showed you earlier that we'll review here in a second. So it's also important to have regular CTAs. That means call to action. So on the first hero section, there's one up here, which is the book a discovery call. Basically, you have to figure out what is it that you want people visiting your site to do, potential clients. What do you want them to do? Is it book a call with you? Is it buy something? Is it something else? Get on your calendar, schedule a call, whatever. Figure out what that is and then funnel them down to that. So everything should be leading back to that. That's why on this page there's a call to action. If I scroll here, if they want to know more, they can click on that. Halfway down the page, there's another call to action. Check out the services, or this is the same link as learn more, right? And then contact MGP, that's get on our calendar, get on a call with us. And at the bottom, just a little bit about me as the founder, just so that they can understand who they're working with. I think that's important as well. And if they want to know more, they can go to the About page. Really, I should have another call to action here. It seems excessive, but you want one at the top, in the middle, and at the bottom. So really, there should be another one here at the bottom. But this seemed redundant considering that there was one right here. What I could do is bump up the About section. See, I'm not going to do any of this because I'm not staying with web.com. If I was, I would bump up the About section and maybe move this CTA down, and that would create more balance. I don't really need one in the middle because this first page has been trimmed down significantly. So there's the liability statement. At the bottom, I have a bit of a footer here, just important information. This I think is important, very important to have on every page, is give people a way to reach out without having to go through the contact form. If they just want to jot down your email, if you feel comfortable putting a phone number out here, do that so that people can just reach out to you directly. That takes away as much friction as possible so that they can get the ball rolling. That's essentially what you want to accomplish. Now, I'm realizing here probably a lot of these emojis are a turn off for people, and it gives it a less professional vibe. You'll see how I've changed my approach on that. I'm going to show you later. But before we do that, I want you to pay attention to this legal statement here. This is actually beyond legal. This is protection by law. So it's very important. You don't have to use the same wording, but have some type of privacy statement, terms and conditions, and some type of copyright notice. Just protect your rights and everything. Liability coverage is very important. So just protect your IP. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's go over to the services page here. I did want to speak to the menu, but I really don't have much to say about it. There are social media buttons. I find it's crowded. There's more on here than probably is necessary. I would probably take off the social media buttons if I wanted to revamp it and go back to just having the menu items and the book of discovery call only. And I could probably take the A off and the icon here to shrink that button up because it looks insanely large right now for me. The other thing to consider is maybe you don't want to have AI generated images. I actually enjoy this little guy. I think it's a funny cartoon version of me, and it shows I'm kind of like a tech geek, and I've got my laptop in my hand. I'm ready to help you and consult with you. I like it, but I'm noticing this trend now. There's a lot of people that are anti-AI, and it's not even that they're not adopters of it. They don't want anything to do with it, especially when it's generating pictures or audio. So something to consider, that you may want to have, a note here that says this was created by so-and-so, like without AI, or just organically, or however you want to say it. But basically, here's another call to action. I'm trying to capture email addresses by offering a free 30-minute consultation. I guess that's my attempt at a lead magnet. Hey, you get 30 minutes of my time for free. I can tell you a lot about these services and all these things that I do exceptionally well, if I might say it myself. I have been doing these things for the better part of 20 years now. Actually, 20 years plus. A lot of these things I've been doing since I was a kid. I don't remember when we got our first video camera, but probably was like 9 or 10 years old. So a lot of this stuff I've been doing all my life. Professionally, I've been doing them 20 plus years. And then in terms of as an entrepreneur, a business owner, I've been doing these things since 2017. So, there's a lot of experience here. There's a lot of credibility and authority in just having done it for myself, and the rave reviews that we'll get to here in a moment. These are all important things to capture on your site. You don't have to have them laid out in as much detail as I've put here, but if you do, fine. I wouldn't go much more than this. This is probably overkill, but that's just how I am. I'm very thorough with these kind of things. I'd rather provide more information than not enough for potential clients. Now, this may be overwhelming for them, but here's some of the products and services and solutions that I offer. Content development, we talked about that. That's the actual design process of these different things. Content for websites, blogs, social, whatever. Narration and voiceovers, as you can probably tell, I have a good speaking voice. I decided to do something about that and got certified at George Brown College for voice acting foundations and voice acting. That's how I got started with that new chapter of my life and that new edition of service offerings that I was able to put on the website. But yeah, I do narration, mostly e-learning narration, but I've done characters, voiceovers, I've done IVR systems, and a little bit of everything. No audio books yet, but I'd love to do one. I've done them for fun, like for myself, to just practice. I've done Jonathan Livingston's Seagull, which is one of my favorite books. I narrated just for myself. I didn't post it anywhere. But I'd love to do that. I can do all kinds of narration and voiceover stuff, and I really enjoy it. It's really fun work. Audio and video editing. These things all tie together critically, because how can you really do this without this, right? I'm not in the position where I just go to a studio and do my voiceover and leave, and somebody else does the video editing. Do it all. That's why clients like working with me. It's a one-stop shop for all of their needs. A huge advantage of working with me as opposed to other consultants or freelancers. And this is not an exaggeration. You're getting a partner when you work with me. Somebody who's invested just about as much as you, because I can oversee any or as few aspects of the project as you need oversight on. Development, design, or consultancy. I can plug myself in anywhere. Platform administration. Now we're getting into online event management. Notice here, like I was saying before, multimedia and production and content development is now squished onto one section. I broke off some of those into online event management because I was trying to push the most with Maple Grove towards the end. I needed an outlet for virtual event management specifically. I don't like the term virtual. I think it's implied, so I use online to differentiate between live in-person stuff versus online. You could say virtual event management. Event management in general has a lot of parallels, but when you're doing event management in person, very different than doing it online. Some events are not just online or in person, they're both in person with an online component for people who can't make it physically. So that's a whole array of logistics working with the on-site tech team while you're the virtual producer. It's a very challenging thing. It's not something that I would undertake lightly, and certainly not without the right team to back me up, but it's something that we can do. Platform administration, that's working with the actual tools, the apps, the software. Technical support is you basically do that with everything, especially online events, because that's your job as a moderator, as a producer. Your main job is to help with technical support for the presenters, for the attendees, for everybody. Engagement tools, so Q&A, polls, chats, get people involved. Nobody likes a webinar or an online event where you're speaking at them for an hour. If you're a webinar producer or an event producer, do not just speak at your audience one way for an hour. That is the worst way to do things. It's the best way to alienate your audience because nobody likes that. Get them involved at the very least in the chat. Have people talking. Don't turn off the chat and just force people to pay attention to the presenter the whole time. Get people talking. That's how you create fun and engaging events. As a producer, you need to help people with all of those different aspects before and after the webinar or the event. The prep and the staging. I like to do several tech checks, I like to call them, with people, with presenters, with key stakeholders to make sure that their audio and their internet connection and everything is stable and working well. They have good lighting, sounds fine, and they're going to be in the exact environment where they're going to present on the day of the event. We like to make sure that we do a few of those, and then we have one, at least, full dress rehearsal, preferably a week in advance before the event. And then, of course, there are prep checks the same day, up to 2 hours before, and then an hour before, half an hour before, 5 minutes before. Maybe I'll do another video someday about online event management. If you're interested, do let me know in the comments. Now, stability and integrity testing. This is to make sure everything's working, like the technology's playing nice, there's no issues, bugs. Maybe there's like planned downtime for maintenance during that time and you didn't factor those things in. This is basically testing and research to make sure the technology is going to work and that it's frequently tested in that way prior to the event, not the same day that it's happening. And you realize, oh crap, there's a Zoom update right when we're doing our event. Zoom tries not to let that happen, but it's happened where the platform is completely down or it's buggy that day and nobody bothered to even test it up until 30 minutes before the event starts, and then it's like, oh crap, now we have to scramble. Disaster prevention and disaster handling is one of my specialties, but I do not like to do it because it doesn't need to be done. Disaster prevention, yes, but disaster handling and management shouldn't be happening. If you've done your disaster prevention, there is no disaster to manage. There's contingency plans, backup plans, people to call, backup producers, backup technology, backup presenters. You have plan A, B, C, D, as many contingencies as you need to make sure that the show goes on without a hitch. So recording management, that's a big one. That's mostly the post-production. The data storage and management is an important part. It's often overlooked. A lot of these things are just thankless jobs that producers get no love or very little, except for the direct key stakeholders that you're working with. They realize how awesome you are, but everybody else, it's a seamless process, and that speaks to the magic of your work. Is if somebody can watch a recording that was really bad when it was live, but you've brought it up to a level where it's digestible and it can be enjoyed, that's a huge win. But the people watching it are not going to know, like, oh, that video editor is amazing. Most people that are not in the industry or don't do that type of work are not going to recognize the quality, which is good because that speaks to the quality. They won't focus on that. They're focusing on the content. And if the quality is not good, they get distracted from the content, and that's when it shows. If it doesn't show, that speaks to your work. So it is a thankless job for the most part. Registration and attendance, that's optional. Usually the client will advise us if that's necessary or not, but something we can do for sure. And then consulting, like I said, 24/7, 365. The people I work with have my personal number. They can reach me anytime. They can text me anytime, 24/7. I say the same thing to anybody. I don't mind. That's not guaranteed that I'll get back to you right away, but as soon as I see that, hear that, get the voicemail, whatever it is, I'm calling you back. I don't care what time of day it is because that's what I'm in the business to do. I don't just help people shine. I'm one of your partners now. When you work with me, I'm pretty damn close to as invested as you in your project because your success is my success. I guess my success is not really your success, but in a way it is. We're partners. But I'm more interested in your success than you are in mine. So here's a flyer that a friend of mine made for me. It's just beautiful. I love it. I haven't really known where to put it. I've got it printed out. I just don't know where to put it, drop it off. I'd have to go to convention shows, different things, and in-person events, maybe. And then there's a little CTA at the end to get 20% off if they provide their email. I think that's pretty fair. Provide your email so I can stay in contact with you. You get 20% off our services. It translates to thousands of dollars, depending on the size of the project. So people might assume, oh, I'll save $10, it's just 20%. But if it's a $10,000 project, that's a lot of money. That's $2,000 you're saving. Think about it. And that's how you maybe position your own services.